All right. So let's get started here. Let me introduce myself here first. I'm Kenta Sueyoshi. I am the IT and Operations Coordinator here at Willows. I do help out at BCA as well, but mainly I'm at Willows, helping every little thing here. One of the things I did help with was the map test this past week here at Willow, or 2 weeks ago at Willows. And I do know that it's happening at BCA pretty soon here, and I'm making sure to support that and just letting all of you parents know what to expect from the map test, what it is, and what you can see in the reports and what to look for. All right, so let's get started here. Map growth test. So this test, what is it? Well, it's MAP stands for Measures of Academic Process. And just like the name says, it is a way for us to measure how much your student is growing, how much they're progressing throughout the year. And it's not like your other tests where it's one-time thing and you just get a score and that's it. There's the intent to have it multiple times a year. And over the course of multiple years to figure out how your student is growing, as well as where they are right now in terms of their level. It is published by the NWEA. You can learn more about them if you go to their website, nwea.org. And if you still have any questions after this meeting, you can always send your office an email, and they'll probably be able to respond. Or you can visit their website and you'll probably be able to find the answers there as well. Now, this is a quote I got from the MAP website. The test is designed to measure student achievement in the moment and growth over time. So where are the students now and how have they grown over the course of the year, over the summer, over the past year? At BCA and Willows, we administer the MAP growth test from K through 8th grade. We do it once in the fall, so right around this time now. So we did it already for Willows. We will be doing it for BCA. And then we'll be doing this again in the spring, right around April or early May. There are 4 tests. There is the math, science, reading, and language. The math and reading is available for all grades, starting kindergarten. Science is available from grades 3 and up, and then language is available from 2 and up. You might wonder why K through 8. Well, they don't have any tests for pre-K, and that's one reason. And for 8th and why we stop at 8th grade is because for 9th and up at Willows, we give them the PSAT instead. And so that's a good way for them to prepare for college, but also give us an idea of where they are in terms of their achievement level. Now, this is a big thing about the MAP test. It is designed for students to get about 50% correct. Now, if that's hooking you and it's making you think, wait, what? Why is that? I think I'm doing a great job here so far. I'm going to talk about why that is. But before I do, I want to show you this graph here, and this is essentially the way that the test will figure out where your student is achievement level wise. So we'll start with an easier problem. You'll see this, the purple check mark, they got it right. The difficulty of the question goes up. They get another problem, they get it right again, and the difficulty will keep going up. Once they get a problem wrong, then the test will acknowledge that, and the difficulty will lower, and then find a problem that they can get it right again. It'll go up, and then it'll keep repeating that until it finds a good spot where it's pretty confident in the score. So similar to the STAR test. That would be. I'm not too Familiar with STAR test? I know it as a student. So from my basic knowledge of that, yes. What does the map test? Oh, map growth test measure. Now, um, I saw just a question in the chat. Is it's computer based? Yes, this is fully computer based. All the students um, do it on the computer, and so Willows, all students have their computers, so we do it on their computers. And then for BCA, they'll use the computer carts or the computer labs. Let's see. Sorry, couple more questions. So the questions. Sorry, let me go back just a bit. Yeah. So the questions are just based on how well they're answering the questions, and so if the student is flying through, they're getting the questions right. It gets harder and harder and harder until they get to a problem where they don't know the answer. I was talking to some eighth graders after their test, and they were saying, they were trying to explain the problem to me, and they're like, how are we supposed to know this? But it was a concept that they haven't learned yet, understandably have never heard of. And that's just because they got the questions before that correct, and so it just got increasingly harder. All right, so just like I said before, the growth test measures current achievement as well as growth, how much they are growing throughout the year. So for example, one of the questions that you might ask yourself is my fifth grade student, for example, if your student is in fifth grade, are they doing a seventh grade math? Are they achieving a seventh grade math level? And that would be something that the math test tells us. Or whether they're doing a sixth grade level, they're on track for fifth grade, maybe they're a bit behind. Maybe it's in the beginning of the year, so they're a fifth grade, but they still are achieving a fourth grade level, and that's perfectly normal. But also the more important part and the more bigger part of this growth test is that it shows us how well the student has learned or grown throughout the year. Oh, if you could please mute yourself, thank you. So throughout the year, whatever score the student got at the beginning of the year, based on the data that map has, we can tell if the student either caught up, they learned a lot more than their peers, or they may have fell behind a little, they learned a little less than their peers, or they learned just as much, like as much as they would be expected to learn, and they're on track essentially. Is this test implemented in public schools as well? I do know that some public schools do use it. I have a sister in the Bellevue School District. I know they don't use it. But I do know that some other schools use it. All right. So now then, sorry, let me just make sure I didn't skip anything. Okay. Yeah, so what do the parents receive then? So after your student takes this test, they'll take a couple, each of the 4 tests based on our middle schoolers, was about an hour each, maybe an hour and a half, and mostly about 40 problems. Now, most of the students finished in about 40 problems. And once they finish the test, we took about a week to do so. And so once we're done, once we've got all the reports, we will be sending that out to the parents. And so parents, you will receive something called the student profile, and that's going to show the score for each of the subjects. So all 4, or based on your grade level. So if you're below grade 2, then you're gonna have, or grade 3, you might have some other ones, some less, because you're not doing the science or the language. You'll get the growth report, but that's only available if done at least 2 reports, or sorry, 2 tests. And so in the spring, when we've done the second test, then we'll see how the student has grown through the year. And then something that might interest you is there's also a list of areas for development where the student, it gives you specific areas or topics that your student can learn or can improve on. All right, I feel like there's a lot of questions coming in. Is this a national standard test? Yes, this is a national standard test. It is not developed by BCA. It is developed by NWEA. Doesn't BCA teach 1 level above? Yes. So BCA does teach roughly 1 to 2 levels higher than public schools. And so you'll notice when I go over some of the example reports in a bit that our students generally do score very high. But do remember that we're still in the fall, and so if you're in 3rd grade, and they're learning a year ahead, they're learning 4th grade content, they might still score as a 3rd grader because they've only learned the content up to 3rd grade. That makes sense. They haven't fully learned the 4th grade content, so they might not, they might get a couple problems correct in the 4th grade area. So, it may show as like a 3rd grade. The frequency, so we will be doing it. I mentioned earlier, and so maybe you might have missed it, but we will be doing this in the fall, so right now, as well as once in the spring, so twice every year. And the more we do this, the better data we will get. This is, I'm not sure if this is going to replace the ITBS testing. That would be something that your office staff, your front office staff would know better than I do. This is new this year. This is a new test that we're starting this year for all grades K through 8, but we did do a pilot last year for grades 3, 5, and 7. All right. So let me show you the actual report that you'll get. This is just a snip of the first page here. And because you will be getting a PDF version of this report, it looks like this. On my end, it looks a bit more prettier because it's online, more colorful. But there's a lot of information packed already in this first slide or first page here. So let me take a look. Let me break it down here. At the top here, we have the database of how the student did in their test. So obviously the big number there, 258, is their score for the test. It is color coded, and so blue is the highest range, and then you have the green. Middle is I believe a yellow, and then it goes orange and red. You'll see the term. So this was fall 2022, 2023, and there is some, there's always some kind of error. So there is a possible range. It tells you what date they took the test and how much time they took. So this particular student took 110 minutes. Most of the students finished probably in less than 60 minutes. And it tells you what test they took, growth, math 6+. So all the students in 6th grade and above will complete the same test. But again, it is adjusted according to how they do on the problems. And so They do the same test, 6 plus, math 6 plus, but all the questions they get will depend on the student themselves. One thing that you might be interested in to see if this is not an NA is the rapid guessing percentage. So we as proctors and as teachers can see, and as parents can see how many questions, what percentage of the test did my students guess on. And of course, if they really think about it and make an educated guess, that's different. But this rapid guessing tells us how many questions or what percent of the test did the students just kind of quickly skip through. And quick fact, if they skip too many questions during the actual test, then their test stops and the proctor kind of has to let them, restart it. And so that percentage shouldn't be too high, but it does give you some, it may impact some of the score, and so that might show up there. All right, so this is the instructional area. So this is, sorry, if I didn't mention earlier, no, this is for math. And so it breaks it down into other categories of math. This particular one broke it down to real and complex number systems, statistics and probability, geometry, and operations and algebraic thinking. So based on this, you as a parent, as a student, or as a teacher can look at this and say, okay, well, this student is very strong at operations and algebraic thinking, but they're not really, they're not as strong in statistics and probability and the real and complex number systems. And so that's something that they could work on. Now then, over here, a different part of that first page shows the percentile. And so there is there's the percentile. So this score was a 258. And so this student was a 96th percentile. So they scored better than 96% of other 8th graders that took this test. Essentially the top 4%. And once we take more growth tests and we can actually see a growth change, then the left side here changes. And it gives us a number here instead of no growth tests available. And it shows us how well the student is growing. Are they growing faster than their peers? Are they growing slower? Are they growing on track? And then something interesting for those of you who are already thinking about college and taking SAT, ACT, is the readiness or projections that are given for your score as well. In the projections, so I'm going to talk about the ACT and the SAT. So the Washington Smarter Balance Assessment Consortia is for the Smarter Balance standardized test, and it's a level 4 tier test where it's like it's out of 4 essentially, and where level 4 is the highest, level 3 is above or meeting standards, and then 2 and 1 are a bit lower. But let me talk about the ACT. So when it says on track 24, there are 3 different things that it can say for the ACT college readiness. And this is, remember that this is for if your student took the ACT this spring. So in 2023, during the spring, they took the ACT, or in this case, the SAT as well. I don't believe any of your students would be, but if they did, they are on track. If it says on track 24, that means they're on track to get a 24 or above on the ACT. ACT is out of 36. 24 is a pretty good score. If it says on track 22, that means you're on track, your student's on track to get a score between 22 and 24. And if it says it's not on track, that means it's less than 22. And because all of our students are so young still, who are taking the MAP test, it's not surprising if it says not on track there. Don't be worried. Similar thing for SAT. SAT, there are two things that it can say. It can say either on track or not on track. And the dividing score is 480 for reading and 530 for math. So if it says not on track for SAT, that means your student is projected to score something less than 480 on the reading, or less than 530 on math. But if it says it's on track, that means your student is already on track to score over 480 on the reading and over 530 on the math. Of course, it's not a promise, but it is a good projection to have, a good idea. One of the second page here is showing the growth over time. This is a assumption or projection of how your student will grow and how your student's score will change over time. Notice this first dot there, this white circle or the clear circle, open circle is on fall 22. That is when we took it now. And the other dots here are for winter 2023 and spring 2023. Know that we will only take this test for spring of 2023. And so the student has a score of 258 right now in math, and it is projected that they will be above 260 by the end of the school year. All right. And the last thing, no, sorry, not the last thing, but one of the biggest things, one of the majority of the packet of the report that you will receive is this list of areas for development. And it gives you for this, so this is just the first section in math for this particular student. And these are specific topics that the student can keep working on, developing, and improving on. And so, for example, the first one, the student is ready to develop the understanding of absolute value, representing a magnitude of positive and negative numbers in a real world situation. Not just the numbers and the concept behind that, but connecting it to a real world situation. Something that we really push for in IB, right? And so these are things that you as a parent, your students, and the teachers can see, okay, so these are specific topics that this student kind of needs help on or is just working towards. Now, I said this is just the first section of this, and for this particular student, there were, I think, 15 pages for math, 7 or 8 pages for reading, and it's going to be a long document, long list, and it's just a lot of different pieces that they will work on throughout the year, throughout their next couple of years in school. All right, so that's all I needed to kind of discuss with you, and I'm sure it will make a bit more sense as you receive your reports, and of course for BCA after you finish, after your students take the test. But I know a lot of questions have been popping up in the chat, so let me go through this really quickly. Harini, did you have a question?
I did. So
Oh, I think you're muted.
oh, sorry about that. Yeah, thank you for the presentation. Super helpful. But my question was about for the 5th grade math test results. Are they going to be shared via email tonight, or is it during the parent-teacher conference next week?
Sorry, did you say for 5th grade?
Yes.
Yeah, so we're in process right now of what, sorry, I'm blanking on the word. Not exporting, but like producing the reports, if that, it's not the word I was looking for, but getting the reports ready for all the students, and then once it's ready, we'll be emailing it out. I can't say for sure if we'll have it for conferences or not, but we hope to have it for that.
Okay.
Yes. So all students. So I see a question in the chat that says, "Will the kindergarten students also use the computer?" Yes. This is a test that's only on the computer, and so they will, I believe, arrange a time so that students can actually practice a bit. We had our middle school students, 5th through 8th grade, practice a bit as well, because some of these problems, the way that they answer it is not intuitive sometimes. It's very simple once they know how to do it. It's just, it's not like, it might not be the first thing they think of. So I can't say for sure if if that's been scheduled already, but I can say that we did do that for our middle schoolers, and I hope they're going to be doing that for the BCA as well. If the students have done this in public schools last year, are you able to compare? Yeah, definitely. You are able to compare. Unfortunately, you can't like merge the data, but you can look at the two tests and take a look at them. They are so how will you BCA use this information? We can again, I can't say for sure for BCA, for Willows and just in general, we will be providing the data to the teachers as well, so that they have some idea for each student, what areas they need to work on, what they are good at already, and they can improve their differentiation as well as their instruction. How does MAP compare with Lake Washington's Quest test? I'm not familiar with how the two compare. I believe they measure completely different things, and so it'd be hard to compare the two. But I'm not too familiar with the Quest test to be able to give you a good answer for that. Sorry, I'm just skipping the questions that I got that I've already answered. But in the meantime, I see a hand up for Divya. Divya?
Just a quick question, and you might have
Yes.
covered this already. I missed most of the meeting. Is this being recorded? And I think it is, and will it be
Yes.
shared?
Yes, it is being recorded, and we will share it.
Awesome, thank you.
Definitely. Arun?
Yeah, hi, sorry, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, so how long would the test be for first graders?
Yeah, so it all depends on the student. So even at Willows, some of the students finished in 30, 40 minutes. Some of them took 70, 80 minutes. It really depends on the student. But what MAP says is that their tests are generally less than an hour.
Got it. And do you know how many questions? I'm assuming this will be for first graders only, math and reading.
Yeah, and again, that depends on the student as well. I can say for 8th grade, at Willows, it was generally around 40 questions.
Okay, thank you.
But again, that might be a bit different for BCA or the lower grades.
Thank you.
Yes. Sorry, I don't want to mispronounce your name.
Nader?
Oh, yes. Oh, sorry. I saw
No,
a different hand, but yes, Nader.
Hi, no problem, no problem. So if my question was, if it seems like it's each student will have different questions to answer, and they're allowed different times. So how is that? We're not comparing students to each other, right? We're just getting a score, and we just want to see where the student fits within the range, right?
So the only reason that the students are getting different problems and are given different amount of time is so that the tests can properly measure where the student is, where the student's achieving. And so on this teacher end, we can see and compare how the students are doing against, how they compare with the other students as well. You won't necessarily get that data of, for your class, if your student is, doing the best in their class or not. But for the teacher end, we do see the spread of student scores within the class.
But we don't have like a one-to-one comparison, right? Because if the student if they failed to answer a question or they answered incorrectly, then the next question will be easier, right? So we can't compare. It's like we're not comparing apples to apples. We're in this case, right? Because each student's encounter during the test is different than the other student, right?
Yes, but so once a student makes like students are always going to make a mistake, right? When they answer a problem, they might just get it wrong. And yes, the problem becomes easier, but then once they get it right, it'll become harder. And if they get that problem right, it'll get harder. And they are able to get back on, essentially back on track, to figure out where their exact achievement level is.
One unrelated question. My son missed the test because he was ill.
Yes.
And I did ask for a makeup test. Since it's a computerized test, is there a way for us to maybe have him take it at home?
No, I don't believe so. It has to be proctored by a teacher in the classroom to administer.
I see. So for the spring, do you have a set date when the test will be given? So we at least the parents know ahead of time.
I don't know off the top of my head, but if you contact your front office, they should be able to tell you.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Divya?
Hi, I'm sorry. Is this something that's new that's being introduced this year?
Yeah, so this is the first year that we're doing with all grades K through 8. We did pilot it last year with grades 3, 5, and 7.
Oh, interesting. And what the results will be shared with the parents and who else?
Yeah, results will be shared with the parents and the teachers. And so the teachers will see they'll see a slightly different report than what you get as a parent, but they will see the scores as well.
And so this is not something that's mandated by the state government per se.
Correct.
Okay, and what is the purpose of this?
For the test?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so it's for us to be able to measure the achievement of the students and also see and measure their growth throughout the year. Not just this one school year, but across school years as well.
So we have like that in the current academic system as well, or let's say, I mean, in the past as well, right? Where every year at the beginning of the year, students are administered a test to see like where they are so that the curriculum can be fine-tuned. So how is this different is what I'm wondering.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So this is going to give us this is, I'd say, a much more in-depth detailed report that we'll get. It does give us other pieces of data that we don't we can't
Okay, no worries. And then this is administered through a keyboard and a mouse on a computer, not a laptop.
it could be either.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It doesn't. It could be either. Many of our students at Willows use their touchscreen as well.
Oh, awesome, fantastic. And then the scope is limited to math and language, or like how wide or how narrow is the scope?
So there's 4 tests. There's the math, science, reading, and language. Science is for grades 3 and above, and language is for grades 2 and above.
And does this include Spanish as well?
It does not do Spanish.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Or there is a Spanish test, but we just don't use it.
Oh, interesting. Okay, thank you.
Ruchi.
Hi there. My question was a comparison. When you talk about comparison, do you compare the result between peers, or do you compare the results from the former test of the same student?
We do both, I'd say. So at the first time that the student will take the test, they will see a report of how they did, what areas they need to work on, as well as how they compare with other students in that grade. And then when they take it a second time or a third time, it shows how that student, them specifically, have grown over the course of time, and if they are growing at a expected rate, or if they're growing at a under expected or over expected.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Yeah, so again, I'm not sorry, I'm answering a question on the chat asking about using Quest. Or the question was, why prefer map over the Quest used in public school? I know that I believe Quest is used in the Lake Washington School District. I'm not sure of any other school district that it's used in. But again, I'm not familiar enough with the Quest test to be able to answer that question. Get some hands here. Ananya?
Hi. 2 quick questions. Number 1 is interpretation of the results. You said if it's color coded and if it's blue, it means, very good, and green, right? So let's pick an example. Let's say a 3rd grader taking the test. What does a blue score mean? Does it mean the kid is performing at 4th grade or 5th grade? Or does it mean that kid is doing very well in 3rd grade? How do we interpret the current grade versus the color coding of the result?
So the color coding of the result, let me start there, and maybe I can pull. So there are 5 colors: red, orange, yellow, green, blue, and each represent 20%, 20 percentile. So the blue is the highest band. It's from 81 percentile to 100 percentile. It doesn't necessarily show, so it shows how well they're doing against other students in the same grade, but it does not necessarily show, it doesn't tell us if they're achieving at a specific grade above. There is a chart that if you do a quick search, it'll pop up on the MAP website, but it gives you a table of scores, of average scores for each grade, and so that's something that you can look off of as well and figure out, is my student scoring like an average level of which grade? So it'll say like, I don't know the
Got it,
number off the
okay.
top of my head, but
Okay.
it'll say like 230 is an average score for whatever grade, 240 is an average score of whatever grade, and then you can go off of that.
Got it. So then the percentile ranking is based on all kids in US taking this MAP test, not just the BCA students, right?
Correct.
Got it. Okay. Two other questions. One, will there be any mock test administered before the kids take the real MAP test so they get used to that environment?
So I can't say for sure with BCA, but for Willows, we did do a practice test with the students so that they get used to how the problems are administered or are asked. We find that it's not about the difficulty of the test or the difficulty of the questions, how the questions are asked, but how they answer, which can be tricky at times. It's just using the software. So that's what we did practice tests on. If you want to prepare your students for these tests, if you're at BCA and you want to prepare them before they take it this month, or if you're a Willows parent and you want to prepare them before they take it again in the spring, then if you go on the MAP website, they do have practice tests there where you can always take and go over the questions with your students.
Got it. Thank you.
Pallavi.
Hi. So I think I missed the initial part of the meeting where you talked about the quote unquote reading the results. So where can I find information on that? Is it on the MAP testing site?
Yeah,
Or
there's a lot of information on the MAP testing MAP website as well. But this session is recorded, and so you'll get a link to the recording as well.
okay, cool. Thanks.
Yeah, Divya.
Okay, sorry. Will there be accelerated program for the kids as well, like similar to public school based on the results?
I don't believe so. I know that BCA and Willows, we don't do an accelerated program. We do differentiate within the classroom, but we don't pull students out of the classroom.
So, like, how will the, I guess,
So
detailed result help drive the teachers?
Yeah. No, that's a great question. So again, I know more of Willows than I do of BCA. So I'll be talking in terms of Willows, but I believe the same philosophy goes with BCA. When we differentiate in the classroom and when we see these results, we see that students are great at this topic, but not so great at this topic. We can differentiate, and when we differentiate, we see that some students are more accelerated or they understand more. We show them or we give them problems to think more deeply about that concept and how they use that concept, how to apply it, where they use it, where do they see in the real world, rather than going to the next topic with them. So if I were to be teaching the seventh graders recently were doing the Pythagorean theorem. And so if the students seem like they know how to do the Pythagorean theorem, some students are flying by, then I would be giving them problems that stretch their thinking and make them think outside the box and how to apply the Pythagorean theorem to a problem, rather than moving on to the next thing in the textbook.
No, that makes sense. So does that mean their homeworks will be fine-tuned accordingly as well?
That would be something to ask your teacher about. I can't say for sure. Especially for BCA. For Willows, maybe when I taught at Willows, when I taught math a couple of years ago, what I did was I didn't give them extra homework, but I did give them like an optional set of problems that they can work on, that like really stretch their thinking and like really think deeply about the problem.
Awesome, thank you.
Shambrama?
Brahma, hi. My son is in fourth grade, and as I understand it, your the test will start maybe a little below fourth grade and then keep continuing up, right? So are they going to be taking at fourth grade level, or it will just adapt itself to the higher grades as they go on during the test?
Yeah, so it as the test goes, if they seem to be doing more and they're getting all these problems right, it'll get increasingly harder and harder, and it will get to a point where it's so hard that they've never heard of the concept, or they have no idea how to solve it.
So they will be provided enough time until the test decides that this is their level or whatever, right?
Correct.
Okay. I was very curious to know, how can the test determine if the student guessed the answer or he or she is generally fast at the right answer?
So I don't know the algorithm behind their software, but I think they have, I have to believe that they have something that goes on, to there's a way that they differentiate that.
Okay, and I think you said that the fourth grade and above will take science and something else along with English and math, right?
Yes. So math, reading, language, and science.
Okay, so in that, like science, for example, the BCA has its own curriculum that it follows, right? So how does it map to them knowing the stuff that the nation or the state is doing, which they're being compared to at their level? Like how do you expect them to fare comparatively, because we don't share a curriculum?
Yeah, so I'd say no. That's a great question. It's very hard to figure out. Because yes, they may be learning things in different orders. I believe for the lower grades, they talk about concepts rather than like actual like problems. I want to say, like in the higher grades in like middle school, they were asking questions of like, oh, calculate this, or balance this chemical equation, and so it was very like knowledge based. But I think it's in the lower grades it's more, I can't say for sure, but I believe it's more concept based, so that there is some way of measuring without having to have the exact same curriculum.
Mm-hmm. And finally, from the last year's pilot, my son took it in his class in third grade. Will we get results from that, or did you already?
No, that was a pilot, so no, you will not be getting. If those results were recorded, you may see it as part of like the growth since last year. For when you get the report for this year, this time around, you might see it from last year, but I can't say for sure.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, Melissa, thank you for answering that question in the chat. For the lower grades, there is a voice for the questions. Oh, and the questions themselves are not like multiple choice. And so I think going back to that question of how do they figure out if it's guessing or not, it's not multiple choice. It's like entering a number or click and dragging to match. So it's not like your typical like SAT, ACT, other standardized tests where it's like just bubbling something in. Kia? Sorry if I'm mispronouncing that. It seems like it's the student's account. Maybe not. Biswa?
Hi, sorry, can you hear? This is
Oh,
Kaya.
yes. Yes, I can hear
I'm
it.
sorry, I was on mute.
No worries.
So thank you, Kenta. It was a great presentation. So I don't know if I missed this one, but for third graders, this would be the first time that the students would be taking the test. So I was wondering if are there any prep materials, just like ITBS tests. I'm sure the teachers would be, helping students in the classroom to prepare for these tests. But I was just curious if students can prepare at home as well
Yeah, so
using the prep materials.
if you go to the MAP website, um, they will have practice tests, they'll have practice problems, and you can actually install the app that we'll use at school,
Mhm.
and you can take a practice test there. So it's just like the real thing.
All right.
Your students not surprised when they take it at home, or sorry,
Oh.
take it at school.
All right. Thank you so much. I have one another. So this is a quick one. So I was just wondering, like, because these kids are young, I mean, third graders would be taking the test for the first time. So I was wondering if they're allowed to, take help of, notes or for just, rough work for the math tests during the test.
Oh, like scratch paper?
Scratch papers, yes.
Yeah. Yes, they can definitely use scratch paper.
All right. Thank you so much. Great to know. Thank you so much.
Christine? Oh, what is the official map site? I believe it's nwea.org. Let's type that. Sorry, Christine.
Yeah, no, I'm wondering what is the coverage? Like how many other schools are using MAP so that it has the ranking, but then how would I know like what's the base, right?
How many schools actually take the test? I'm not sure of that number. I can definitely look for it. I mean, I'd say I'm doing I'm doing the same Google search that you would be doing. But I do know it's widely used. I can't say for sure exactly how many schools though. I just don't know.
And then the purpose of this test is to track the progress for students.
Yeah, it's to figure out their achievement level, their current achievement level, as well as their tracking their growth throughout the year and over the course of years.
So will BCA share the aggregated result? For example, what's the mean percentile overall for the entire grade or the whole class?
I'm not sure
ranking
I'm not sure about that. I would ask I would ask your school front office or head.
Okay. Thanks.
Of course. Ananya?
So I believe this MAP test is more of a knowledge-based test and not a IQ-based test that, for example, a psychologist would give, right? This is basically to understand, hey, has the kid learned probably a third grade material that he or she should have been learning now or should have known, right? So the result of the test is more of an indicator of, has the kid learned and practiced it enough to know it's sound and fundamentally strong, right? So there is an element of preparation that goes behind the test results. So when you say you will use the results for differentiation of kids, how do you disambiguate? Like there could be, kids who are super prepared, and this being very open-ended, it keeps on increasing the complexity of the question. Does that mean BCA expects that, hey, for their kids to do well, they have to put more effort and teach more advanced concepts before the test? What is BCA's expectation here?
So this map test is just another resource for us to, measure and differentiate our lessons. It's not, and there's a question in the chat right now that says, will this test score be part of the final score consideration in the report card? I don't believe so. This is just another measure, another, ruler for us to better the education that your student gets in the classroom.
That's great. I mean, I truly appreciate BCA taking the efforts to, understand what are the new latest and greatest and trying to incorporate. But a curious question on the other side, right? We have the regular test, probably every Friday spelling test, whatnot, right? The kids are already taking. I believe that's for the teachers to gauge and get feedback on what the kid has learned and has not learned. And then I think last year the kids had the Iowa test at the end of the school year, and now this is the new form of test. Is BCA currently in an experimentation mode, or do we anticipate more and more forms of these tests to be dispersed throughout the school year as it goes?
So we did pilot this map test last year with the 3rd, 5th, and 7th grade. I don't believe we're gonna keep just like adding more and more tests. We do believe that like a standardized test would be a good measure for us, and so this is this map test happens to be the one that we're using this year.
Okay, cool, thanks.
Simran, thank you for putting the link to the practice list in the chat there. Oh, and sorry, I misread the chat when I said yes there. The more difficult the question is, the more points you get. Not necessarily. It's just whether the question is more difficult, whether it's easier, as long as you get it correct. If you get it correct, the problems will get harder. If you get it easier, or if you get it wrong, the questions get easier. And it's not like a cumulative number of points that you get. That's your final score. It's where you end at based on the achievement level. Barry, you have a question?
Hey, can you hear me? This is Barry.
Yes.
Yeah, I just want to confirm, once the parents and the teacher get a report, what is the next step? Is there a session we need to discuss with the teacher, or what's kind of the next step we can take for the improvement?
Yeah, so there are different steps that you could take. Depends on what you want to achieve. The teachers will see the report in either case. You as a parent, if there are topics, and I use math because it's just an easy one to use as an example. But let's say in the math report it says that the student can develop the skill of working with positive and negative numbers. Then if that's something that you want to work with your student, you can see from the list of topics that that's one of them, and you can work with them to better their understanding of that. I know your teachers, your students' teachers will be doing that as well, but there's going to be a ton of, and I mentioned earlier, there were about 15 pages for this example that I had, example student that I used, and there's going to be a lot of topics. So you're not going to be able to go through every of them, all of them, but if there's specific ones that you are interested in, then and working with your student on, I think that's something that you can go through. If there are ones that are very concerning to you, that might be something that you bring up with your teacher, and consult with them how that can be improved.
So the thing is, once we have the report, as a parents, we have to request a meeting with the teacher. So there's how to say, regular meeting with the teacher to go through that. So this is triggered by us, not be triggered by the teacher.
I would say I'd like to say yes, but I can imagine that there might be a situation where the teacher triggers the conversation. It could go both ways, but I think it may be more effective if you start the conversation.
Okay, I got it. Thank you.
DV.
Started late, joined late, but my daughter is in kindergarten, So is this test conducted for kindergarten?
Yes, we start with kindergarten and it goes all the way up to 8th grade. We'll have the kindergarten will take math and reading.
I see. And would we get a recording
Yes.
of the any chance? Okay, great. Thank you.
Jackie.
Hello. Hi.
Hi.
I have a question about, since BCA students, they're quite ahead of public school students academically. So I'm thinking, will BCA students take the same grade test like a public school student, like grade 1, gonna take the grade 1 math test, or grade 2?
Yeah, so I'm not sure if you saw earlier, but for our students at Willows, if they took the math test is 6+, which means it's 6th grade and above. They all take the same test, but it, you know, as they go through it, the test will adapt for that specific student, and so, you know, they will get a different test.
Okay, so probably gonna get in difficulty later after a few questions, something like this.
Right. Yeah. So if yes, and because BCA students, Willow students are a couple, you know, 1 or 2 grade levels ahead. It is, yeah. Most of the students do find that the first couple of questions are very easy, but it does get harder as they go.
Okay, but for lower grade students, they're gonna take only math and reading, right?
Correct.
All right, that's all my question. Thank you.
Yep. Ananya?
Yeah, one quick question. So you showed the screenshot with areas of improvement for the kid, right?
Yes.
Is there a way we would get exact answers that the kid chose so that we exactly know, you know, with sample questions, why the kid chose the wrong answer, so we could have a, you know, analysis with the child later on?
I don't believe so. I actually don't believe even I can see that.
Okay. Okay, thanks.
Nader, I'm not sure if that was your hand from before, if you put your hand back up.
No, sorry, Al. It was a mistake.
No worries. And
right.
Divya, do you have another question?
I had, yeah. Will the state test like the NSAT, COGAT, and Iowa, will those also be administered in addition to this one?
I'm not sure if the ITBES test will be administered again. We've never done the NSAT or the COGAT at BCA or Willows, and so if they were administered, I'd say the ITBS would be, but I can't say for sure. I don't know off the top of my head.
Okay, and the reading comprehension is also computer administered?
Correct. It's not necessarily yes, it's not only comprehension, but yes, it is on the computer. Everything is on the computer for this.
And this map is like, is it specific to ISP schools?
It's not specific to ISP schools, but I do know that ISP schools use it.
Yeah, you're on this.
So will this school, like, I mean, will this score, for example, be relevant for a public school or any other private school?
Yes. It is a standardized test that many schools use, and so it would be relevant.
Okay, thank you.
Jackie, is that another question there? I'm not sure if you're trying to unmute yourself, but in the meantime, I'm going to answer a question in the chat here. When will the results? When will we get the results for the Willow students? We're trying to get it to you as soon as we can. We're hoping that we can get it to you before conferences, but I apologize, I can't promise if we will or not. And then another question: if points. Yeah, so points are not tied to difficulty. This is not a point system test. It is a dependent on how yes, if you answer harder questions, your score will start going up, but it gives you problems so that you get them wrong. It gives you problems hard enough that you get wrong, and so the score, the test can figure out where your level is. So there's no way that one student will get only easy questions and get a really high score, but another student gets really hard questions and they get a low score. That's not how this test works. Am I a Willows teacher? I work at Willows. Yes, I'm the operations coordinator at Willows. I do teach. I have taught before. Right now I don't teach, but yeah, I've been here for a while. All right. Any other questions? Oh, Tao.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, what are the test dates for BCA 1 and BCA 2 this year?
I'm not sure what the exact dates are. I think if you reach out to your front desk, front office of your building, so for BCA 1 and BCA 2, they would be able to give you more specific details. I only know the general date that we do it once in fall, once in spring.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Hey, will there be a makeup test if the kid misses the test by any chance?
I don't believe so. We will, there's a lot of different moving pieces when we want to do a makeup test. I can't say for sure that there will be one. I know for Willows, we are not doing any makeup tests.
Thank you.
If you have any more questions, after this, you always think of questions after the meeting, right? So if you do come up with questions, I suggest reaching out to your front office rather than the classroom teacher, because the front office may have those questions if it's specific to the map test. All right. Well, yeah, it is 7:15 or 15 minutes over our time. Thank you for all the questions. If you have any questions, feel free to email your front office. They'll be able to hopefully be able to help you. Good luck to your students on the test, and I will see you another time.
Thank you.
Thank you.